If you're a high earner or a high net worth individual, there are no shortage of politicians in the US like Bernie Sanders and all over the world who want to raise your taxes. There's a new Social Security tax scheme they're rolling out, and I'm going to tell you all about it. New article came out from Financial Advisor magazine that says Sanders and Warren, US politicians, the progressives who want to take more of your money, propose Social Security tax hike on the wealthy. This could be, especially if you're starting out in business and you make $500,000, $1 million, couple $1 million, this could be almost worse than some of the other taxes like wealth taxes they're proposing. If it's your first time here, my name's Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist. We're a boutique consultancy that helps 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best, lowering your taxes, diversifying your assets, getting a second passport, making sure you are free. And we do that all at nomadcapitalist.com. We also host the biggest and best offshore conference every year called Nomad Capitalist Live, open to absolutely everyone. Here's the article about the new Social Security tax hike on the wealthy. With Social Security needing to reduce benefits 20% by 2035 to remain solvent. By the way, just before we get started, I remember being interested in politics at a very young age. I remember getting letters 1996 election or 1998 midterm election of the US, like, we got to get Social Security propped up. We got to make it solvent. Like, it's falling apart. It's been like a quarter of a century. It's the same thing. Meanwhile, you've seen communist countries that were communist back then, now rank more highly for economic freedom on the studies than the United States. They figured out how to basically get rid of communism and have 10 and 20% tax rates. The US hasn't figured out how to fix Social Security. That tells you something. And that's why I've been kind of formulating these ideas since back then. But a group of Democratic lawmakers, it continues, has proposed an aggressive tax plan on the wealthy. They say will fully fund the program for decades. And while also increasing benefits. Where haven't we heard this before? The Social Security Expansion Act, doesn't it always sound so nice? Introduced by Senators Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, would for the first time levy Social Security taxes. Here's the part they've wanted for a long, long time. On both higher income earners and those with unearned investment income, because you didn't build that. You didn't really earn the money. You just made a bunch of money. You just sold your business. You just took a lot of risks. And then you have this money to invest. You didn't earn it. Above $250,000 to expand benefits by $200 a month or $2,400 a year. The senators say the change would extend the solvency of the fund for 75 years. These politicians always talk about taking your money, calling it unearned, going out into the general public, and basically crapping all over you as if you didn't do anything. You're the evil rich. And then they act as if like all this money they just took from you under false pretenses is the booty they're going to distribute, and they solve some problem. You know, if you don't have money to eat, you can knock off the corner store. I don't recommend it. Let me just be very clear. But you know, there's a lot of ways you can get money to solve problems. Doesn't mean they're good ways. Right now, Americans are taxed at 12.4% on their first $147,000 in income to pay for Social Security. By the way, I left the U.S. in, it's been about a decade now. Wasn't that number like 110? How inflation is creeping up on you, or how your taxes are rising faster than inflation. Earnings beyond that are tax-free for Social Security purposes. I remember when I was a kid, Bill Clinton, as I recall, took the cap off of Medicare, which also used to be capped, and then that just became as if, like, you know, you make $3 million a year and you're self-employed, that you're kicking in $100,000 in Medicare, as if 40 years you're going to get $4 million plus the time value of money, as if you're going to get anywhere close to that. Medicare is now a welfare program, and that's fine. You can argue that you want welfare programs. I happen to think that with the amount of value that a business person creates, kicking in $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 a year to Medicare for the premise that one day they're going to get some. By the way, you still have to subsidize it. We talk to retirees all the time, or would-be retirees all the time, who they can go to Thailand, they can go to Malaysia, they can go to Mexico, they can get care at the best hospitals, world-renowned hospitals, for less than the Medicare supplement. So you've just been wasting your money all these years. That's already uncapped. Now they want to do it to Social Security. The proposal by Sanders and Warren would lift this cap and subject all income above $250,000 to the Social Security payroll tax, according to a fact sheet released by the senators. So the bottom line is what they wanted to do. I think Biden put this out. They've been wanting this for a long time. And as we always say, It's exactly as the story of the bureaucrat I sat next to many years ago, who told me we always roll things out slowly. People like slow, progressive changes. They don't want to hit it all at once. They don't like that. But you boil the frog in the pot of water, and people will accept it. So they've wanted to do this for a long time. It hasn't gone through. But as I also say, you push this stuff more and more and more, it just becomes palatable. It's like you hear the same jingle over and over. And people are like, oh yeah, okay, I believe that. So what they want to do is basically say, if you make more than $147,000, right now you're not paying payroll tax. If you're a business person, if you're self-employed, or if you have a business that's, you're on your own payroll, you're paying it that way. You are paying 12.4%. Basically $1 out of every 8 is going to your retirement, which, okay, they claim this will make it solvent. Great, when you get there, you'll get $2,000 a month. And who knows what that'll be worth then? And surely if you invested it, it could be like, $2 million a month or some ghastly figure, because they do a terrible job of managing it. And so above that, you're like, all right, fine. You mismanaged the tax on $147,000 of my money, and I'll make as much as I want, and I'll just keep that extra one every $8. No. They're going to give you a donut of the next $103,000. By the way, I'm sure the 147 will keep creeping up, as it has, as we mentioned. The 250 perhaps will be like the alternative minimum tax, where it just never creeps up, and eventually maybe the donut goes away. But you'll have a donut of right now about $100,000, where, okay, breathe a sigh of relief. That $1 out of every 8 that's going to be wasted in the world's largest Ponzi scheme won't have to be wasted. You don't have to worry about it. But above the 250, it comes back. So again, $1 out of every 8, if you are self-employed or you run your own business, will be taken from you up to infinity. So you make $10 million a year, you're kicking in well over $1 million a year into Social Security. And so let's say you're 40 years old. You're going to retire. By the way, they control the Social Security age. They control everything about retirement accounts, which is why and I'm not giving you financial advice, but I never put money in retirement accounts, because I thought it was a bad trade-off that a bunch of goons in Congress get to control when I take out my money and on what conditions. But whenever you retire, you're 40 now, let's say you're 68 then, 20 years of $1 million, 28 years of $1 million bucks, you're going to get that much in benefits? Of course you're not. And that's not. They're not even pretending anymore. It's no longer an entitlement program where you put money in, they manage it poorly, and you get a terrible return. Listen, some people do need that, by the way. Should the government do it? That's a separate debate. But some people, they wouldn't manage their money, and so they need this program. You don't need this program, I would imagine. And so you're going to put in all this money, and you're going to get nothing back for it, essentially. And they're doing that in the name of basically everyone else who hasn't managed their money well getting extra money. And okay, hey, nothing wrong with people getting an extra couple bucks. But the argument that this is some kind of program where you're actually supposed to be contributing to your own retirement, that's gone out the window. So just understand the progression of where policy in the United States, and this is true of pretty much every other Western country, has gone. They're moving to the left, and they don't care about you, the person who creates jobs, anymore. When I got the commendation from the Prime Minister of one of the places where we hire, I realized a person like myself who runs, your average 8 or multi-8-figure business, has a lot more opportunities to be rewarded, be, lauded when doing business in smaller countries that are like, hey, we got to compete. The U.S. and many Western countries don't think they have to compete, and so they're just like, hey, where are you going to go, as Gavin Newsom said. Where are you going to go? Well, you're going to go a lot of places, and I think people will when they start seeing these extra tax bills. The bill, this is Financial Advisor, would also for the first time require the wealthy, it gets better, to pay a Social Security tax on their investment and business income, increasing the net investment income tax to 12.4% and applying it to certain business income not already covered by payroll taxes. So in addition to, they're going to basically wipe out any semblance of the fact that you are contributing to your own retirement. They're going to basically make you pay for everyone else's retirement and then some for them to waste by removing the cap on Social Security. It's a new 12.4% tax on every entrepreneur. Even if you're just an employee, it's still an extra 6.2% tax. That's going to be a big hit. As you grow, by the way, most people pay, at least in the US, and I think a lot of other Western countries, payroll taxes are a bigger chunk. Not for entrepreneurs, but for the average person, payroll taxes are the bigger chunk. They're going to make that even worse. But on top of that, they're also going to increase the investment and business income tax. They're a big increase. They're also going to expose new types of business income that wasn't covered by payroll taxes. So they're just, I mean, this is like the ultimate trifecta. We have the trifecta where you live 4 months a year in 3 different parts of the world. It's lifestyle friendly, tax friendly. They have the trifecta, which is they hit you 3 different ways. Their comment, we like the bill. It fits our criteria. Wait, hold on, who is this? Who's saying, oh, this is not, I thought this was Bernie Sanders. We love the bill, the billionaires are coming. But this is Dan Adcock speaking. We like the bill. It fits our criteria of what we want in Social Security reform with regard to requirements to pay more revenue into the program, to pay for benefits and extend solvency. Because you're never going to go to the voters when you're a politician and say, you know what? We created the most cockamamie program that just doesn't work. We don't know how to manage money. That's why, we have like $30 trillion in debt. That's like a little number. Like, we don't know how to manage money. As if you didn't know we didn't know how to manage money. We don't know how to manage money, and that includes yours. And, there is no more money. Like, yeah, we don't want to say that to you, though. So we're going to go out and blame you, the guy who's creating jobs, the guy who's taking risk, or the gal creating jobs and taking risk. We're going to go out and blame you and take $1 out of every 8. So, of course, Dan Adcock likes it because, what is he? He's the Director of Government Relations and Policy. Oh, that sounds terrible. For the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, the NCPSSM. It just ask for it by name. Who lobbies congressional lawmakers for the group's 1 million mostly retired members nationwide. Adcock says he can see a similar bill introduced by John B. Larson of Connecticut, chairman of the House Ways and Means Social Security Subcommittee, which they're going to vote for in the House. By the way, I mean, they're going to try and push as much of this stuff through while they have control of all the branches of government. But whether it happens now, like if you think the Republicans are going to save you, and if you're in another country and you think, the conservative people or whatever, politicians don't save you. You think Trump didn't have tax increases? They all find ways to screw you. And to the extent that they even lower your taxes. So you're paying right now $1 out of every 8 to go to a Ponzi scheme, right? And you're like, if it were 1 out of every $9, you'd be happy? No, go where you're treated best. This is the latest example. This to me is really the most egregious. I mean, net wealth taxes, bad. Unrealized capital gains taxes, retroactive taxes, those are pretty nasty. These are all the things they're planning, but this one is you earn income and they're hitting you in all kinds of different new ways. So it's a variation of the oldest trick in the book. And so of course guys like Dan Adcock like this, I guess because Dan Adcock is in business because he lobbies for you to pay more tax. And so the article goes on and on talking about Social Security reform legislation and how likely it is in 2022. And so this is the future. Whether it happens today, a year from now, 5 years from now, you might as well, if you're building a business, realize that this is the trend, right? Look at a country like Georgia we've often talked about. They made they made it so that you had to vote to raise the taxes. The whole place had to get together and say, you know what, we're tired of not paying enough taxes, raise our taxes. In the US and all the other Western countries, they just elect politicians who make promises to everybody. They're going to give you more stuff. And they've run the economy, $30 trillion in debt. This is not a healthy place. And so if I'm running a business, no doubt there are some benefits to having a presence in the U.S. And listen, nothing to say you can't pop into the U.S. from time to time. You can't have contacts, you can have clients, you can't have whatever. But this is the direction. And so if you don't want more and more of your money taken under an endless number of new pretenses for helping everybody else because you're the problem, then you should go where you're treated best. You can move your business to any number of places. By the way, you don't have to pay zero. Sometimes people call us and they say, listen, I don't want to pay zero. I'd like to pay something. Great. How about 1, 2, 5, 10, 12? You can choose. Some people occasionally call and say, I don't mind the amount of taxes. I mind that it's being wasted so stupidly and nobody gets anything for it. And we help them move to any number of places in Europe, for example. So you get a vote. There are well over 200 sovereign countries and territories to choose from that will offer you any tax rate of your choosing. And yes, even if you're an American with citizenship-based taxation, you can dramatically reduce your taxes, in some cases, to as low as zero. And by the way, that does not just mean moving to Puerto Rico, which is also another option. So You can go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn more and get some help with that. This is the future, guys. It is all sorts of new taxes. They keep trying. It's hard to keep up with the latest attempts, but this is what they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And eventually they get enough things through the net, it's going to cost you a lot of money.